Hey, so, um, Masked MMA here, and I want to recap UFC 308 here. So let's begin. This is my Tapology page, by the way, Mask of MMA. I was gonna do Masked MMA, same as my YouTube channel here, Masked MMA. But unfortunately, the name was taken, so it's gonna be Mask of MMA in case any of you want to check out my predictions before or after fights. It might be easier to check from here. So yeah, let's get into it. Um, so here is um, Renat Facritina versus Carlos Leal. Now, in this fight, it was clearly a robbery, and as you could see, 93% of people did pick Renat, including myself. And even though I got it right by decision, in fact, I got many of the first few fights right, it was pretty clear that this one wasn't a deserved win. Um, Renat was seen as a prospect, and he's 33 now. He's 33 and a month old by now, so it's quite ridiculous to see him as a prospect at this point, especially with the two split decision. I mean, I don't see this as a unanimous. This was a unanimous technically, but this wasn't a unanimous. It very well could have gone to Carlos Leal. In fact, I would say it's a robbery, especially the 30-27. But nevertheless, it's it's just it's like it's just kind of funny because he was like throwing big meaty hooks, as Lucas Tracy would say, and I'm referring to Renat, and I guess that's what got him the win. It just looked kind of like a sloppy fight. It was a decent fight, to be fair, but it was just kind of sloppy, which is why I gotta laugh at it a little bit because even though Carlos Leal technically deserved the win because he did more in the fight, he also kind of doesn't because let's be honest, he was likely a drug cheat going into that fight, seeing how many spots he had. And yeah, but moving on, Bruno Silva versus Ismail Nurdiev. Now, what happened with this one was it was basically just a technical showcase from Nurdiev. In fact, I'm actually surprised looking back how many people picked Bruno Silva. I understand he was a decent underdog pick, seeing how he fought a lot of good guys in the UFC, but you have to look at the skills. You can't just, and you have to look at the competition. Lucas Tracy's right about lighter man skill, and that's what was showcased here because just 2 fights ago, Ismail Nurdiev was a welterweight. So yeah, you got to look at the skills. You got to look at the weight class. You got to look more clear, not just the competition. Sure, the competition could be great, but if you're constantly losing to them, that's an issue. Because as you could see here, it's 23 and 11 before losing to Nurdiev. So even though it's quite similar, Nurdiev definitely had the cleaner overall record. If you look at his past fights, he even went to a decision with Sean Brady in his first go at the UFC. He got cut eventually because he went 2-2, but he came back with a statement here. He landed very good kicks. That was most of his game in the first round, and then he resorted to grappling. Bruno Silva just gassed and he just didn't know what to do. He looked like a shell of himself. So, yeah, I mean, similar attributes. The age difference, though, and the skill from Nurdiev definitely got him this one. And that is 2 for 2 on the card, both by decision. Next is Farid Basharat and Victor Hugo. Now, this one, I was actually surprised when I saw the fight. Before it started, it was like 145 pounds for Victor Hugo and 137 for not Javid Basharat. They're kind of similar to me, I must say. But no, Farid Basharat, I was surprised to see the weight difference because I didn't see the weigh-ins. For me, it just I don't know. I just wasn't interesting to me that time. I suppose usually I watch the weigh-ins, but not this time. And missing out on this weigh-in was really a mistake, seeing how it went out, or how it took place, I should say, because I was genuinely surprised here. If I picked Victor Hugo, which obviously I wouldn't have, judging off of the fact that not only is he a huge favorite, but Farid Basharat is just the more skillful grappler. I If I did pick Victor Hugo, though, I would have been probably a little bit more confident because of the weight miss, perhaps. Because even despite the fact that Farid Basharat took him down multiple times still, an 8 pound advantage is still quite a bit. It was something like an 8 pound, yeah, like 8.5 there, 145.5, and 137 for Basharat. Yeah, I mean, similar in height and reach, but the grappling is what was really the difference in this fight. They were pretty even on the feet. You can argue that even Bashrat was slightly better because of the fact that he had the takedown threat. Because at the end of the day, Victor Hugo, his nickname is literally Striker. I mean, he is the striker of the two, but when you mix in the grappling, then it becomes a problem. So, yeah, not much to say about this one except for the weight change. It was very odd. I've never seen this, to be honest. I've seen catch weight bouts, but I've not seen the two fighters being so different in the weight at the night of the fight. But, yeah, I think that Bashrat should maybe get one more guy just outside the top 15, or maybe the number 15 or 14, something like that. I think he could get like a Said Nurmagomedov, unless he's already booked. Or he could get a Adrian Yanez. That would be good to see if he can stuff the takedowns. I've not really seen him fight a grappler, so that would be quite interesting. And moving on, we have Kennedy Nezuchukwu versus Chris Barnett. Now this is the funny one on the card. This I actually saw some of MMA Guru's live stream, and this was hilarious, I must say, especially watching his chat. Now, no disrespect to Chris Barnett, he is great with the kicks if he's able to use them, but in this fight he was not because he had a leg injury or a knee injury, something of that nature. And even though I did pick Kennedy by first round or third round KO, actually, I'm actually forgetful of that. He was always at the threat of getting spinning wheel kicked, as you could see from one of Chris Barnett's KOs in the UFC. He had two, but going into this, I did not see a 5'9", 75-inch reach Chris Barnett hitting the target on a 6'5", 83-inch reach Kennedy. And 32, 38, if you look at the age. Yeah, I think the Tapology picks make sense. I do think that 28% picking Barnett, though, is still a little bit crazy in my opinion. And I do think that the odds were quite justified. I did see that the Weasel picked Chris Barnett, and that's also kind of funny. I don't know why he would have picked him. I understand that Kennedy's not the smartest light heavyweight, but it's the lighter man's skill, and he's huge, and Chris Barnett is just not athletic aside from his wheel kick. Again, no disrespect to him, but it's just true. Like, if you're losing to Martin Boudet, that's not a great look, in my opinion. But, yeah, I wish him well after his injury. I hope he recovers. And moving on, this one was a crazy one as well. These next two were pretty crazy in my opinion. Abus Magomedov. We have a submission in the third round. I was actually surprised because looking at his career, I didn't look back too far, but as far as I'm aware, he has mostly been known for the knockouts. And in this fight, he actually was going for takedowns a lot. He was actually quite similar to Ismail Nurdiev in this fight, to be fair. I thought that he was a great favorite pick. I noticed that a ton of people were picking Ferreira, but I see he's just like Again, like what Lucas Tracy would say, big meaty hooks. That's mostly what his game is. You know, he was just throwing big meaty hooks, and he was throwing spinning back elbows as well. Like that's gonna work. Like how he KO'd Dustin Stoltzfus. It's not gonna work like that on the much taller Ranger guy. Like Dustin Stoltzfus is like 5'11", and Abusa 6'2", much longer, 6-inch reach advantage, I believe. That is 72 to 78 there. And yeah, I thought that like he was a great favorite. I thought that it was a little crazy that he was only a slight favorite. Now, yes, he did get rocked in the second round, and technically, if you want, you could argue that he got dropped in that moment, and he even got rocked a little bit at the beginning of the third round. But he was implementing his kicks very well, especially in the first round, and when he needed to get the takedowns, um, like Ismail Nurdiev, except a little bit more dangerous of an opponent in Fajera, um, he got the takedowns. When he needed to, he got them. And that shows that he's actually quite good. Now, his cardio has always been an issue, and I don't think it will never I don't think it'll ever change. I think in the Strickland fight, the issue was that he was emptying the gas tank in the first round a lot more than his uh, more recent fights. But that's not just gonna be an issue for him in the Strickland fight or the Kyle Boralho, I think that's how you say it, fights. I don't think that's just gonna be a one off or a two off. In this fight, he was managing his cardio much better, but it's still something to look out for. His cardio is an issue. So even though he looked quite good, I worry for him against more heavier competition in the top 15 if he goes that route. Mateusz Rubeski versus Mitabek Oralbai. I had it the same as everyone else. This was a crazy fight. I had it for Rubeski. Um, I just didn't expect his cardio to last, and it didn't, but Oral Buys didn't last either. And if you go back to my prediction video, you'll see that I said that both of their cardio isn't very good, but I think that Oral Buys is better because he was in the welterweight division, and I should have looked at the lighter man skill because Lucas Tracy is quite often right about that. It is a lighter man skill issue, oftentimes. But if you look back at Mitabek Oralbai's first fight, that was on a week notice against Orals Medic, and that was a neck crank. That was incredibly impressive because Medic is like very good now. He's KOing people, and he's quite a massive guy. He's welterweight. He's sticking at welterweight right now. And so for a pretty small lightweight, if we're being honest, sure he's got some muscle, but he is like height-wise, he's quite a small, and reach-wise even, he's quite a small lightweight. For him to pull off this win was quite impressive. Tapology is doing him dirty with this haircut, though. I gotta say, this picture there, but it was actually a catch weight. I'm just now remembering, and I see it right there. But yeah, I mean, Mitabek Oralbai was doing good, not getting hurt too much, but by the end of it, in the third round, he looked like a bloody mess. So did Mitabek Oralbai. I mean, uh, both of them looked bloody because a lot of it was from Rubeski because he was like bleeding from the face before in like round two. He got cut open, I believe, and yeah, crazy. I mean, both of these guys are just out of the top 15, if you ask me. And Drew Dober, I heard from MMA Guru, is a fight that he thinks is good for Mateusz Rubeski. I agree, but for Oralbai, I would say maybe like a Jared Gordon. I think that's a good bounce back fight for him. It's a similar matchup, except he doesn't quite have the same power as a Rubeski, I think. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. I think that was definitely fight of the night. I don't think it was fight of the year like Guru or others have said, but that one was a crazy one. And Jeff Neal and RDA. This one I'll go over quick. I was right, and that was my sixth correct. And what can you say? I mean, Jeff Neal is expected to do that, if you ask me. I don't understand Weasel's pick here, and I understand that Jeff Neal is 50-50 sometimes, but these are against the best guys. Like, RDA is 40 years old. I understand that Jeff Neal might not have the best grappling, sure, but he has really good boxing, and he was a top 10 welterweight coming into this. So I just don't get it. I like what makes you think that Jeff Neal would lose this when RDA got outgrappled by a aging Vicente Luque? Like, I understand grappling's different than striking 100%, but you pick Vicente Luque going into his fight against Nick Diaz, but you're not gonna pick Jeff Neal against RDA, who got outgrappled by the older in his career Vicente Luque. Like, he got outgrappled when he's supposed to go out there and try and grapple Jeff Neal in RDA. But then Nick Diaz, who's 40, past 40 as far as I'm aware, and you pick him over Vicente Luque. I don't get it. I am just... How does that, like... Confusing picks sometimes, but... Jeff Neal's boxing looked crisp. He almost looked like an Ilia Topuria in there. but like, bigger, more... I wouldn't say more powerful, but definitely similar style, I'd say. And, yeah, 75-inch reach, 70-inch reach comparison. Like, I think that 12% makes sense for RDA. But, yeah, I thought that Neal would get it done on second round. I didn't expect RDA to get an injury there as well, but it would have happened like this regardless. Moving on, Ibo Aslan. Again, not much to say. I was right. I heard that not lots, but quite a few people, 26% on Tapology, and bigger audience people like MMA Guru were picking Sequeira, Rafael Sequeira, the Lion, and I didn't understand that. Ever so slight underdog in Ibo Aslan made sense to me. He was more proven. He fought UFC caliber people. He fought like a 12-2 guy in the Contender Series and KO'd him, as far as I've... maybe I'm wrong here, but I could go back and check his UFC career and even his Contender Series career and see that he has gone against some decent opposition compared to 6-3 people and just mostly bums in the regional scene. For the guy coming in on short notice in Rafael Sequeira. Sure, he's 6'4", and he was quite tall. He looked quite strong coming into this, but he just wasn't proven. So, yeah, I even though I can kind of understand the 11-0 looks pretty, but Ibo Aslan just is the king of the big meaty hooks. That's the favorite of the Lucas Tracy lines, I must say. But moving on. Shera Magomedov, Armen Petrosyan. 14-0, 8-3. UFC even had it at 9-3 for Armen Petrosyan. But yeah, UFC and Tapology have it a bit different sometimes. We had a spinning elbow or spinning back fist, double spinning back fist right there in this fight. Performance of the night, best knockout of the year, number 46 on Tapology. Yeah, I think it's earned. I think that was crazy. Though I actually think that this was a good underdog pick. You'll see that I got it wrong, but it was a great underdog pick in my opinion. Yes, Shera Magomedov looked insane in this fight. He's ranked number 14 on the official UFC page now, but if we're being honest, he was kind of getting a little bit exposed in the first round. The second round, he was clearly winning if ever so slightly though. But the leg kicks from Armin Petrosian, he was out leg kicking Sharamagomedov, and I expected him to do that for 2 or 3 of the rounds because Armin Petrosian, he's very bouncy, and although his arms are incredibly short, which played a factor into this fight heavily, it I didn't think it was going to be this much of an issue for him, where he would miss the target so much to where Sharamagomedov could counter with spinning back fists and kicks. His kicks to the body, his counter kicks when he saw that Armin went for an inside kick, and then he would counter with a kick of his own that sounded even stronger. Like, it was a very high level kickboxing fight. And even though I did pick Armin to win, Sharamagomedov, I did think, had a very good chance of winning. It was a very hard fight for me to pick, but it was a underdog that I just felt like I had to pick. He's not old like RDA, and he's not fat like Chris Barnett, with all due respect. Or, I don't mean to disrespect these guys. They're great fighters in their own right, but Armin Petrosian is definitely a better kickboxer compared to them too, I think. Though 71-inch reach, that is abysmal, I must say, for a middleweight. Yeah, Sharamagomedov, although I do think he gets exposed by some of the top 10, he's great, and I'm looking forward to whatever ranked opposition he gets next. Now we're moving on to the top 4 fights. These ones were quite interesting in my opinion. I did actually expect Lerone Murphy to win 29-28. This is exactly how I expected him to win, although I was a little surprised by him getting dropped. In all honesty, he did get dropped in the first round, and I expected him to not survive that live. Live watching it, I did not expect him to survive. He was just outpointing Ige. Now, some were saying that he was gassed, Dan Ige. I don't think so. I think that's just how he regularly fights, to be honest. He's kind of slow and patient. He waits for the right shot, and I honestly didn't see a difference compared to like a Damon Jackson or a Nate Landwehr type of fight. I thought Lerone Murphy fought a perfect fight, aside from the moment where he overextended and got dropped. That was the issue in this fight for him, Lerone Murphy. Dan Ige, he's always a fun fighter. He always gets the knockdown, even if he doesn't win. But except for against what's his name? Diego Lopez. But he's just a different guy. He's on another level, except for compared to Ilia Topuria, which we'll get into. But yeah, I mean, he also had the slight height and reach advantage. This one just made sense to me. And then we have Alexander Rakic and Magomed Ankalaev. Now this one, I agree with Guru. I know that I've mentioned him like 5 times now, but he comes out with these videos ahead of time, and he just is pretty spot on with these. He got the prediction that it was a second and third round win for Magomed Ankalaev, 29-28, but he was also spot on in the aftermath, saying that he thinks that Rakic with a better coach would have won this, and I agree. I think that this was a great underdog, especially considering just how much they favored Magomed Ankalaev. If you look at him, he's minus 355, and on the UFC page, he was actually somewhere around a 400, which is quite crazy in my opinion, considering that Rakic has fought some great opposition as well. Now, granted, this is 3 in a row now, so he's got to get a win again, possibly against Dominic Reyes if he beats Anthony Smith. But yeah, this was kind of expected. If Rakic wasn't able to get the leg kicks going in the first and the third round, then I kind of expected this. Now, granted, I picked Rakic 100%. I even said I believe that he might have got 30-27 if he had the right game plan in my prediction video. But I'm not too sure if I actually said that. But he he just got outpointed here. And yeah, I think that you got to give Ankalaev the title shot. Rakic, he went for the takedown in the third round. I don't get it. Everybody's talking about that. I don't understand. Oh well. I thought it was pretty good underdog, but same here. I thought that these were great underdogs: Petrosian, Rakic, and Whitaker. But these guys, they're just different. Especially Whitaker. I mean, the talks coming out of this um, fight card about Whitaker, not Whitaker, Chimaev and Topuria are just like the narrative has completely shifted. I always thought that Chimaev and Topuria were wonderful fighters. Like I knew that if Hamzat wins, he was going to get in the first round. I just thought that the experience and all that, just as a lot of other guys were saying, and if you'll see, Whitaker was slightly more picked here. I thought that he was just going to pace himself better and then find the right shots in the third and fourth. And then eventually he was just going to gas out Chimaev. He was going to land some good shots, some body shots, and then Hamzat was just not going to be able to advance any further. But yeah, I had no idea that Whitaker's teeth were fragile like this. Now, I knew that Whitaker kind of had a suspect chin in the Dricus fight, but I didn't expect him to get subbed in the first round this easily, in the sense that he tapped like crazy. Like, Whitaker, I expected to just go out if he was gonna get subbed in the first round, but he was just, yeah, his teeth, his lower jaw, his, I saw the picture. He's saying it's not his lower jaw. Whatever you want to call it, Chimaev's squeeze is insane. And yeah, you gotta give him the title shot over Strickland. I like Strickland, but even though I think that his boringness, quote unquote, of his last fight was overstated, I do think that it was more boring than this. This was a crazy pace. Even though it wasn't as crazy as the Kamaru Usman or the other previous fights of his, it was still a crazy pace from Chimaev as usual. And he justified being the moderate favorite. Last but not least, I called it. I called it. People in the MMA sphere, mostly the people who are fans of Holloway, were picking Max Holloway. Mostly the former MMA fighters or current MMA fighters. The actual people who knew anything, like Lucas Tracy, MMA Guru, MMA Shay, I believe, and basically everyone that was an MMA YouTuber picked Ilia Topuria, and that made sense. He justified as well being the moderate favorite. He KO'd Max Holloway, who has never been chinned before. He has to go down as a top 20 fighter of all time right now. Maybe top 15, maybe even top 10. If Khabib is in the top 5, put him ahead of Khabib. It's ridiculous. Like, you compare the two records. We know this. We know this now. If you compare the two records, it's just night and day. Ilias is way less padded. He went into the big leagues at 27 and 9 months old, and he's going to be 28 when he fights his next fight, which is probably Volkanovski or Diego Lopez. I hope it's Diego Lopez, because that would actually be somewhat interesting. And yeah, Max Holloway, he's got to take care of his chin. He got badly KO'd. And yeah, it's like what everyone says. If you get a chin for the first time in your career, when you're known for having a solid chin, that is worryful. That is, you got to be optimistic, but it's not a good look. And he might get chinned in his next loss or next fight, depending on who he goes up against. I heard some people, I heard some people saying Josh Emmett. No, I think he goes up to lightweight. He also agrees with that statement. He thinks that he should go up to lightweight because he thinks that he's just better there. And judging off of his Max Holloway, I mean, not Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje performance, I would say, yeah, do that. Makes sense to me. Yeah, I also heard from MMA Che, I watch all these guys. They're very informative. He was talking about how the height matters more about the distance management and how if you just lean back, it makes a with your upper body, it makes a huge difference compared to the arm length. The arm length can be even, but 5'7" to 5'11", Ilia Taporia, the fact that he closed the distance on 5'11", Max Holloway, like this guy is such an insane boxer. He's my favorite fighter right now. He is representing Spain and Georgia very well. Um, yeah, I mean, he's a crazy cool guy, I think. The fact that he's speaking English so well with all these other languages he knows, he made this fight interesting with the trash talk. He pointed to the center of the cage. Guru talked about how he Max Holloway wouldn't point down to the center of the cage in the fifth round against Yair Rodriguez. I'd have to double check that. But I don't think he did that against Calvin Kattar either or a few others in the past. When he's winning, but it's a closer fight, he's not going to do that. He's only going to do that when it's a moment, when it's something that he feels like it's it's something that he's dominating, it's something that he can win, the fight in particular. If he's winning clearly, then he's got the advantage in every department, the gas tank and the power and the reach and everything and the skills. He thinks that he'll do that. And he thinks that that'll benefit him. That's the only reason why he does that. And I think that's true. I think that's just, I mean, I can't think of, there's only the Justin Gaethje and the Ramos fight, I believe, where Holloway did that, the pointing down to the center. So Ilia Topuria just exposed him. He's I don't get it. Max Holloway, he's liked for being a cool guy. Okay, Ilia's a cool guy as well. He represents Spain and Georgia very well. Two great countries, I must say. And great people. Ilia as well. He's a great guy. He's obviously just playing up the trash talk because he wants to make things exciting. I don't get what's up with some of these MMA fans who think that that's just out of line. When Conor McGregor did it, everybody was like, "Oh man, awesome!" And now that he got smashed by Khabib, now everybody has a problem with Conor McGregor type of trash talk. It's ridiculous. It used to be the type of talk that would get 2 million pay-per-view buys. Now it's condemned by the MMA fans. Oh, that's too disrespectful. Ilia's obviously just playing it up. He's just trying to have a little fun with it, you know? But yeah, I can't wait to see him fight whoever he fights next. Hopefully Diego Lopez, maybe in the future Islam Makhachev. And yeah, Murat Devalishvili and Ilia Topuria. I'm impressed with Georgia this year, and I hope that they continue to succeed. Crazy. Crazy. Two of my favorite fighters now, Marab and Ilya. I mean, they're active. They're fairly active. They're not Alex Pereira, but they're pretty active against sick competition. In my opinion, them two already have an insane resume. Um, Jose Aldo, Piotr Jan, Sean O'Malley, Marlon Moraes. What else I'm forgetting? Frick. Henry Cejudo. That's Marab's. He's already top 20 as well, in my opinion. And then Ilia Topuria, Max Holloway, and Alexander Volkanovski. And if he beats Volk again, or Diego Lopez, that's already like crazy. Top 5 for sure, 100%. But yeah, that is my UFC 308 recap. I went 9 out of 13. I think that was a sick card. I would give it probably an 8 or 9 out of 10, honestly. Lots of people are giving it an 8. I would give it a 9 maybe. Depends on how you look at some of these more sooner, like prelim fights, like the ones that happened earlier in the fight card. There was a few that were like a little bit more decision heavy, ones that didn't really go to crazy wars, but you know, the main event and co-main event definitely helped. It's a sick card. Definitely one of my favorite Abu Dhabi cards. Um, yeah, 9 of 13, pretty good on the card. I know that some people did a little better, but I think 9 of 13 is a little better than average, the average that most people got on this card. So, yeah, I think it was great, great stuff. And yeah,